This create sell bank module is on the 80-20 rule and e-commerce funnels. And it's part one of this. We'll come back and dive in deeper later. So while all people might be created equal, not all customers are created equal. And you bought Perry Marshall's 80-20 sales and marketing book, and he demonstrates this. 80% of your sales will come from 20% of your customers based on the Italian economist's Pareto, his 80-20 rule. And he early on, well, I'm going to go to the next one. And Pareto basically said, for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. And here's it shown graphically. And there's the source. So here's some examples. 80% of the profits come from 20% of your customers. Think about that for a sec. 80% of your profits. So if you have 100 customers, 20 of them are giving you 80% of your business. What does that mean about the other? Where do 20% of your profits come from? 80% of your customers. So it's really important that you look at this. Now, 80% of product sales come from 20% of the products. And this is hugely important as you manage your e-commerce store. You want to find the products that are selling. You want to pull out the products that are not in this 20%, and you want to find companion products to this 20%, because that's called force multiplication. 80% of customer complaints come from 20% of your customers. Now, this is another part of the whittling. You want to eliminate these customers as much as you can after listening to them, because they might have valid complaints, but some customers are just bad news and they're just complainers. 80% of sales come from 20% of the sales team. Now that, if you're in sales management, you know that, and these are your stars, this 20%. The other 80%, they're helping, they're providing 20% of the sales, but these are the folks that you want to reward. So if you generalize it, 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. That's directly from Pareto. 20% of all inputs create 80% of the total outputs. 20% of all effort leads to 80% of the results. Very interesting. So there's the book, and the 80-20 rule. It's a power or exponential law that it shows up in nature. So the reason I wanted you to get Perry Marshall's book is it's a goldmine of background about this 80-20 rule and its applications. Now, it's based on the proven self-similarity at multiple scales, which shows the fractal nature of the power law. And we're going to go into that more. It's the math is complicated, but there's some simple tools that you can use to exploit this. And so here's an example right out of the 80-20 book. And you can go to https://8020curve.com. But if you have 100 people and you offer them a $50 product, and of that 100 people, 40 bought your $50 product, graphically it's going to look like this. 40 people bought a $50 product, and there's your gross sales, that shaded area in red, which is $2,000, 40 times 50. So there's $2,000 in gross income. So now that you've got that, you go to 8020curve.com and you can get some insights. So there it is, 100 people, 40 bought a $50 product, and that's what it looks like. Well, what you see is that the people that bought, there's some gray above them. And that means that they could pay some more. The people that did not buy, if you lowered the price, you could maybe get more people to buy. And that's the 80-20 rule shown graphically. So, and here's the 60 that didn't buy. We already got over that. And let's see what the 80-20 model says. If you put in 30 instead of a $50 product, what you find is that 72 will buy at the $30 price point, which is, $2,160. And that's interesting. Well, let's see, what if we raise the price to 100? We put that in, and it says that 17 people will buy a $100 product. So the area under that curve is $1,700. Now I just want to quickly go back and look at the area under the curve. The area under the curve here is 2,000. We've already gone over. There's bigger area under this, 2,160, and then the area here is 1,700. Well, what if we raised it to 400? Well, we find that 3 people will buy, and there's the 3, so there's $1,200 underneath that. And you go, well, so 40 bought at 50, 72 would buy at 30, 17 would buy at 100, and 3 would buy at 400. So in Tanner Larsson's book on Ecommerce Evolved, we talk about funnels, or he talks about funnels, and we're going to dive into funnels. But let's think about this. You have 100 prospects and you have a $50 product. Well, you sell 40, or of the 100, 40 buy the $50 product for a gross of $2,000. And you could leave it there, but you saw that a certain number of these would buy a $100 product. Now, that's not just saying you take your $50 product and you bump it up here, but you want to have this sale, but you can bump and put an upsell that adds more value, and you're going to get 1,700, and you're going to get another 7. You're going to sell 17, and you're going to have a gross of an additional $1,700. Now, if you have a second upsell in your funnel of a $400 product, now this might be a webinar, it might be a mastermind, it might be a membership group, whatever the product might be, you're going to sell 3, and it's $1,200, and you're going, well, wait, I could make 2,000. Well, by having this funnel in place, your gross can be $4,900 instead of just the $2,000 up at the front. Now, these top 3 product folks have more headroom. So maybe you want to sell a higher priced $997 price and things like that. So the reason these 2 books are in here is this is hugely important as you move through the create sell bank. So he shows 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers, but the fractal nature of this, the self-similarity at multiple dimensions, is 80% of the 80 is 64, and 20% of the 20 is 4. So 64% of your sales will come from 4% of your customers. That's the 64-4 rule. Well, you can apply it again. So 80% of 64 is 51.2, and 20% of 4 is 0.8, which means 51.2%, almost half or over half of your sales will come from less than 1% of your customers. So you want to nurture your top customers. That's really the important thing. So, the same 80-20 principle applies to talking to users and identifying their needs. Choose your subjects carefully so they align with your with your sweet spot, um, and which we've covered. And again, here's the summary of that. Now we're going to cover funnels later in the course, but this is the framework of our example. So this is right out of 80 or e-commerce evolved, and you can see that you have a sales page or a landing page. People buy your initial offer, and this would be the $50 product. Well, then the first upsell might be the $100 product. And if they don't buy, you could offer the same product with maybe less at $75. And if they buy it, then you go up to the $400 product and so forth. And you just keep moving. So here's the math behind it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you can, get some idea that that curve didn't come without some mathematical background. Here's the other part of it. An exponential just means e to the q log, natural log of 1 minus x. And there's a whole story that you can get by going to 8020curve.com. The shotgun is kind of interesting, that you have a professional gambler pulled out a sawed-off shotgun and racked it and looked around to see who recognized the ratcheting sound and turned their heads. And he said to his protege, the people that turn their heads are not the marks. Don't play poker with them. Gamble with everyone else. So basically, that's the way the curve goes. So you can see various examples. You're going to have an opportunity. If you knew that Southwest Airlines is 167 in the Fortune 500 with $15.7 billion in sales, that's them. You can put that in and you can see the rest of the 80-20. So that's a quick overview of 80-20 rule and e-commerce funnels.